right, we're back on The Real News here on 1400 WSIC, 1520 WDSL, and there's a couple of clips we want to play if we possibly can for the sake of time. This was in the House of Representatives, Brad Sherwin, Democrat from California. Go ahead and roll that, Ty.
From Ohio. The only way they can pass this bill is by creating and sustaining a panic atmosphere. That atmosphere is not justified. Many of us were told in private conversations that if we voted against this bill on Monday, that the sky would fall, the market would drop 2,000 or 3,000 points the first day, another couple thousand the second day, and a few members were even told that there would be martial law in America if we voted no. That's what I call fear-mongering. Unjustified. Proven wrong. We've got a week, we've got 2 weeks to write a good bill. The only way to pass a bad bill, keep the panic pressure on. Now, what has the Senate done to this bill?
And right after Brad Sherman, Michael Burgess from Republican 26th District of Texas also came on and stated that he was actually kicked out of numerous meetings that day, not allowed to represent his 820,000 constituents.
Isn't it amazing that we are here having to report that in the House of Representatives we had a representative saying they were under threat of martial law in America? Now, we can't make this stuff up. We're playing the clip straight from the House of Representatives. Again, we'd like to go to our phones now. If you'd like to call in and comment on the bailout, we would like to hear from you. 336-998-9375. If you're for it, if you're against it, if you would like to say how the economy is affecting you right now, if you would like to comment on how we have just been shown how our government does not represent we the people. All the polls that was shown on TV, by a majority, the people did not want to have this bailout, and again, they passed it. They did not submit to the will of the people. And go to the Virginia Fox. We want to play the Virginia Fox clip and show what she had to say this week in the House of Representatives, because I have to commend her. She was trying to really represent we the people. But also this week in the news, Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin has blamed the irresponsibility of the U.S. financial system for the global crisis, and we want to discuss that. And again, the phone number is 336-998-9375. If you'd like to call in, and we're going to play the Virginia Fox clip here in just a second.
Time has expired. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from North Carolina rise?
Permission to address the House for 1 minute, Madam Speaker.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There's a song, The Day the Music Died. I don't think it is too much of a stretch to say this may be the day America died. I'm not alone in feeling that what the Congress is about to do today is a very, very serious and consequential thing for this country. I want to quote from an article from Investors Business Daily today and submit it for the record, Madam Speaker. After years of faking it, the federal government has finally hit bottom, or depending on how you look at it, ascended to its level of maximum destructive incompetence. Through its power over education and communications, Washington already influences the creation and dissemination of knowledge. Once it takes over the financial industry, nothing will be left standing in the way of the federal government's dominance. States and localities are mere administrative units and dispersing agents for Washington. Government has won its war against religion, sidelining churches. American capitalism is not just an economic theory, it's a way of life where rewards are based on achievement, not identity or class, and is therefore inextricably bound up with the individual freedom and American exceptionalism. I yield back.
Isn't that amazing what she just said? That was Virginia Fox on the floor of the House of Representatives before the vote earlier this week. And if you'd like to call in, 336-998-9375 with what's occurred this past week. I think a lot of people would like to call in and voice their opinions on the economic bailout. And as I had started saying, Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin had blamed the irresponsibility of the U.S. financial system for the global economic crisis. Putin told a government meeting on Wednesday that the U.S. inability to deal with the financial crisis We've got a phone call from one of our listeners. But let's go. Everything happening now in the economic and financial sphere began in the United States. This is a real crisis that all of us are facing, Putin said. The Russian official did not blame the crisis on specific individuals, but on the whole system. And what is really sad is that we see an inability to take appropriate decisions. This is no longer irresponsibility on the part of some individuals, but the irresponsibility of the whole system, which, as you know, had pretensions to global leadership, Putin said. Putin's remarks came after the U.S. House of Representatives on Monday rejected a $700 billion Wall Street bailout plan, allegedly directed at preventing the economy from slumping into deep recession. The U.S. financial crisis, which began after the housing market slumped, has sent shockwaves across the EU zone, bringing down a number of investment banks and forcing unprecedented takeovers across the continent. According to the Associated Free Press, the benchmark index of Russia's RTS stock market has fallen by more than 50% since May, a drop analysts say has in part been caused by the global credit crunch. So I think it's interesting to see what the rest of the world has to say about our inability to manage our own affairs, while we dispense advice worldwide as to what every other nation needs to be doing. And I'm going to turn to Brian. Brian is going to tell us just a little bit about Paulson's conflicts of interest, and I think that you'll find this very interesting.
The actions of Treasury Secretary Paulson since the first outbreak of the financial tsunami in August of 2007 have been directed with one apparent guiding aim: to save the obscene gains of his Wall Street and banking cronies. In the process, he has taken steps which suggest more than a mild possible conflict of interest. Paulson, who had been chairman of Goldman Sachs from the time of the 1999 Glass-Steagall repeal to his appointment in 2006 as Treasury head, had been one of the most involved Wall Street players in the new securitization revolution of Greenspan. Naming him to head the government agency now responsible for cleaning up the mess left behind by Wall Street greed and stupidity was tantamount to putting the wolf in charge of guarding the hen house, as some see it. Paulson showed where his interests lay. He is by law the chairman of something called the President's Working Group on Financial Markets, the government's financial crisis management group that also includes Fed Chairman Bernanke, the Securities and Exchange Commission head, and the head of the Commodity Future Exchange Commission. That is the reason Paulson, the ex-Wall Street Goldman Sachs banker, is always the person announcing new emergency decisions since last August. 2 weeks ago, for example, Paulson announced the government would make an unprecedented $85 billion nationalization rescue of an insurance group, AIG. True, AIG is the world's largest insurer and has huge global involvement in financial markets. AIG's former chairman, Hank Greenberg, a close friend of Henry Kissinger, a former director of the New York Fed, former vice chairman of the elite New York Council on Foreign Relations, and one of David Rockefeller's select Trilateral Commission trustee emeritus of Rockefeller University, was for more than 40 years chairman of AIG. His AIG career ended in March 2005 when AIG's board forced Greenberg to resign from his post as chairman and CEO under the shadow of criticism and legal action for cooking the books, in a prosecution brought by none other than Eliot Spitzer, then Attorney General of the state of New York. In mid-September, between other dramatic failures including Lehman Brothers and the bailout of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, Paulson announced that the U.S. Treasury, as agent of the United States government, was to bail out the troubled AIG with a staggering $85 billion. The announcement came a day after Paulson announced the government would let another 150-year-old bank, Lehman Brothers, fail without government aid.